All right, well, my pleasure again to welcome our next speaker this morning, Leo Plue. Leo is the Executive Director of the Abilities Centre in Whitby, Ontario. The mission of the Abilities Centre is to enrich the quality of life for people of all ages and abilities through an inclusive environment. Recognized as an international centre of excellence, the centre serves local, national, and international communities by providing resources and research tools that promote inclusivity and accessibility while enhancing the quality of life for its community members. Please join me in welcoming Leo Plue to the stage.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for the invitation to be here. First of all, I should apologize to the interpreter because I don't know what I'm going to say, so I don't know how she's going to know. When Kate Young called me and asked me if I would join you here this morning, my response was immediately yes, of course I will. For three reasons. The first reason, of course, is because I believe in the cause. I think that the Greg Boyles and all of the other Greg Boyles sitting out here in the audience this morning are the heroes. And we really believe that in terms of the Ability Centre, which I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. We're very much supportive of those kinds of things. We're building some programs into our own Ability Centre that will lead to employment. The second reason is I'll go anywhere, anytime to talk about the Ability Centre. I'm proud of it, I'm proud of the building, I'm proud of the staff. We put programs together in the building, and you're going to see some images of it and some information about our programs on the screen in a couple of minutes. And the last reason, or maybe the least important, is I actually live in London. I work in Whitby and I come home on the weekends. So I love London, it's a great place, so it gives me another day to be at home. And it seems like every time I come home, my wife has collected another student to live in our house. We have a nephew who's at Ivy, who's been studying and working very, very hard, and now I find out that a niece is coming to live with us in January on a work placement. So it's not an empty nest. Our house is filling up, and every time I come home, I don't know who's going to be there. And of course, they're university students, so you never know what hour of the day or night they're going to be there either. But employment of youth with disabilities, and we really at the Ability Centre don't like using the D word at all, so that's why I like the name that you have chosen for your organization. We're about the same age. We went public in 2006 and really began to build our building in 2010. Am I going to have the...
It's right up there.
Oh, it's here?
No, it's up on the podium.
Oh, thank you very much. So that's the Ability Centre. It's a pretty big building. It's 125,000 square feet, and for all of us hockey fans, I can put that in perspective. It's the size of 6 ice pads, all mushed together. So it's a fairly large footprint and quite a unique building. It's one of those 15-year overnight successes. We spent a lot of time getting ready for it, doing a lot of user surveys and user input to the design of the building. The individuals who were the co-founders of this building and who really brought it to life were the Honorable Jim Flaherty and his wife Christine Elliott. And remember back in 99, 2000, accessibility and inclusion were not the flavor of the day. So Jim and Christine were a little bit ahead of themselves, and they came to us as a group of community members, gathered us together and said, look, we build all kinds of facilities in our community for people to get into, but do we build anything for people who have challenges in terms of physical mobility or any other kinds of challenges, not only from the physical side in the built environment, but also attitudinally? And can we do something where people in our community will all feel welcome and feel invited to be there? And so Jim is a pretty persuasive person, and we said, of course, we think we need to do something like that. And so, as you can imagine, there was no model. There was nothing for us really to look at and say, yes, that's what we want to build. So you obviously go down a lot of dark, dusty roads and a lot of dead ends, have to make a lot of turns and so on as the journey continues. And also we dealt with people who said, are you crazy? You can't build something like this. This is too big. And this was really a grassroots movement. It was developed by community members, and I was there through all the trials and tribulations, and I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, if we stopped every time somebody said you can't do this, there wouldn't be a building. But you know what? There is. And it's a great building. We offer programs. My elevator speech is it's a AAA building, all abilities, all activities, and all ages. And you're going to see some of these as we go forward. We had our 9th annual gala, and we had it actually in our building a couple of weeks ago. And we named the field house in Jim's memory to make sure that we keep his legacy alive and keep his name in front of people who come into our center. We are an award-winning event. I talked about a multi-award-winning facility. Last October, Christine Elliott and I went to Germany. We met with the International Paralympic Committee people who presented us with an award for exceptional design and for the as-built environment. Xavi Gonzalez, who is the president of the International Paralympic Committee from Bonn, Germany, has visited the center and has told me that he believes we have one of the most accessible sports facilities in the world. So we're very proud of that. Other awards we've received, the Canadian steel industry for, again, design and the creative use of steel. And you'll see a picture here in a minute about some steel, and a lot of steel in that building. The Consulting Engineers of Ontario, a provincial award again for design, and the Durham Regional Employability Network for our programming, where we have so many inclusive type programs. So in our building, I want you to be sure that you get the message. It's not just a leisure and recreation center. We have art studios, music studios, life skills apartments, lounge areas, sensory rooms, and a multi-purpose theater. So we do a variety of activities. And when I talk about all activities, I did mean all, into the art, cultural, as well as the physical and recreation. This is an interior view of our building. It's a beautiful building. There are 2 features of the building that I tell people when they come in. Number one, the light. It's a bright, light-filled space. And the other thing is it's wide open. Obstacle-free, barrier-free. So big sense of space, and you get a little bit of a sense of it here. But until you actually come in the building, you will not get a sense of how awesome the place is in terms of size and scale. What you can see here, and to the right of this picture on the 2nd floor, that's where our art studio, music studio, theater, and so on are. So I'll just show you a couple of pictures here. This is our sensory room. Our atrium, our large atrium, and you can see here an example of what I was talking about with space and light. This is a pretty good picture in terms of how much light is in there, and people who are visually impaired, obviously, as much light as we can provide. That's great for them. And you can see when I talk about obstacle-free and not too many barriers, this looks like a floating ramp. There are no pillars. You may not be able to see it in the picture, but it's a hanging ramp. So it looks light and airy and so on, and there are no pillars for people in wheelchairs or scooters or who have visual impairments to bump into. A kitchen that a lot of people come in and say, I wish I had something like this in my home. This is where we do all the life skills and cooking classes and so on, and it's a great space for us to work with our participants. Another thing that was a feature the International Paralympic Committee liked about our facility and remarked on was that every single shower that we have in the facility is a rolled-in accessible shower. Every single toilet stall is accessible. Every single door in our building is oversized. Every single door has a power door opener on it. And so what that tells people subliminally, I think, is that you can go anywhere you want. There's not an us and them. There's not a place you can go with a power chair, a sport chair, a scooter, and you can't go here. Anybody in our building can go anywhere at all. And we've done a lot of work on wayfinding to ensure people can find their way through this massive building. Talking a little bit about our programs, Stepping Out is a program developed by Haley Wickenheiser at the University of Calgary, and it deals with the impact of exercise on brain functioning and brain development. That program is coming to the center, to our center in the new year. I'll talk about some of the other ones and come back to Thrive in a minute. Time is a program for stroke recovery patients. We do an exercise program with them, and it's highly successful. Obviously, summer camps and especially fitness programs. Igniting Fitness Possibilities is a partnership between Holland Bloorview in Toronto and us, where we partner up students in school who have a disability with students who do not have an identified disability in a fitness and recreation program. And parasports, a lot of parasports, signature programs in wheelchair basketball. We had the first ever Canadian wheelchair lacrosse game in our facility about a year ago. Wheelchair racing, and we're just now launching something called SOC Ability, the disability program, or a program for in soccer for people with disabilities. I'll go back to Thrive now. Thrive is a program where we pick out those students who age out of high school at age 21. My background, I was a high school principal, and I saw many of our students who left who did not have a destination at the end of their high school career. They weren't going to employment immediately. They weren't going to post-secondary training immediately. What were they going to? Well, the fact is they were falling off the cliff. And they were either going and spending time with a parent or a caregiver, but what they were losing is their identity, because their identity is their school. And that's one thing in terms of work. Work provides identity and provides dignity for people. And many of these people who you people out there have hired have not had that identity. Well, they have the same thing in schools, but once they lose that, they've lost that, they've also lost their peer group. And so we pick them up when they come out of that program. We've got 120 now, doubled our program over the last year, and the need is still greater. And they come to our center, a fee-for-service program, 3 days a week, and they do a combination of art, music, drama, life skills, and every day do something in the fitness program or movement. And so it's a very popular program, and we're working towards destinations with them. Some of them may go to some training, some post-secondary training, or some other type of training, and some of them we hope will go to employment, or full-time or potentially part-time employment. So here are some of the activities that they're involved in. Here's a yoga class, a fitness class in our field house. Drumming, our music program. Drumming, for those of you who don't know, is a very therapeutic type of program because of the beat and the rhythm, the major gross motor skills and fine motor skills and so on that get developed out of that kind of programming. And then, of course, our field house, our gymnasium, and our fitness. We also have places in our building where we have a lot of social things that happen. We have developed we know that we don't know everything, and we're quite willing to admit that. So we've developed partnerships throughout our community with educational institutions, the local Durham the district school boards, universities and colleges, medical, rehab facilities, hospitals, and so on, and also through the community, through Royal Ontario Museum, Royal Conservatories, art galleries, Rick Hansen Foundation, and so on, to develop the programs and develop the partnerships that will inform us in terms of developing our further programs. We also have some very exciting national partnerships, one of which is the Ability Hub out of Calgary. And the Ability Hub is a center very much smaller than ours, but they've developed and a little bit ahead of us in terms of developing a program for adolescents and young adults with autism. The Canucks Autism Foundation of Vancouver is another pan-Canadian partner with us, Geneva Center in Toronto, and so on. Another organization that I've just become involved with is called the Community for Brain Development, which is a pan-Canadian partnership bringing 21 different agencies across the country together to look at, among other things, the impact of exercise on the function of the brain, whether through cerebral blood flow or heart rate variability, and some of the research that's been done around that is pretty powerful and pretty interesting in terms of moving forward. So the future. Well, in August of 2015, we're the host site for the Pan Am Games for 2 events, bocce and judo. We're really excited about that because it's bringing more profile to the Ability Center and the kinds of things that we're doing there. We have developed, I think, a really accessible and inclusive community in our center, not again because of just the built environment. We've done a lot of work with our staff around customer service and so on, and we here have reflected back to me, and I hear it every week, the vibe when people come into our building is that people feel welcome. They feel it's their place to be. They feel that they're not being judged. And that's what we want to have in there, but we want to take that out into the community so that we can model it within our building, but it's not good enough just to reside there. So we've spent a lot of time intentionally with our staff, and we're really very proud of the work that they've done. The Canada Deaf Games are coming to the Ability Centre in 2016, so we're really excited about that because that becomes a national competition, and there are other international and national competitions as we gear up for the Para-Pan Am Games too. Lots of test events, including this weekend when between 80 and 100 visually impaired athletes will be coming for a judo competition. So that's a lead up to the Para-Pan Am Games. We're in the new year, probably the first quarter of next year, we're launching 2 federally funded programs, one called Community Works, which some of you in here might know. It's an employee readiness program, so we're working with participants who have autism and other disabilities, get them ready to go into the world of work, to do the kind of the social skills and things like that they need to go into. The other one, Ready, Willing, and Able, is another federally funded program, and while the specific program isn't coming, an iteration of that is, and that's an employer readiness program to develop the confidence and capacity among employers to feel confident in hiring people with disabilities. And then, of course, the Stepping Out program has that impacts too. The other exciting thing, or another exciting thing, there's lots of exciting things, we're developing an Academy of Innovation and Research, and that will be opening in the new year. And it's 2 sides of the same equation, I guess. Innovation in terms of looking at the new programs, the new kinds of things that we can offer that are going to meet the needs, identified needs of people in our building. And as we do that, then those programs will become more specific and more reactive to what they want. The other side of the program, of course, is the other side of the program is the research. And of course, the research then is what informs us in terms of how we make changes to our program to better meet the needs of individuals who come into our community, and into our center, and are part of our community. So that's a pretty quick overview of something that's taken 15 years of my life, and so you can't get I hope you get a little bit of a sense of what we're doing there, but certainly I want to make sure that you all feel like you've been welcomed and welcome to come and see us and visit us and actually see the building. But it's not just to see the building, I think it's to see the people in the building and how they relate to one another. Of our 3,400 members that I mentioned there, about 35% of them have an identified disability. So it's for everybody in the community, and it's very interesting to see how people without an identified disability respond to those with one. We really believe that people learn how to relate to one another by being together in the same spaces, not by being separated into different groups. And so we see that developing, and we see people who actually are seeing this now as a community, and so we see this as a microcosm of our community. It's certainly something that we want to share. Again, I want to thank you very much for your attention this morning and for inviting me here this morning. Congratulations to all the nominees. You are my heroes. Thank you so much.